Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm Mr. Michael and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. Now, if you're a minister, doesn't mean you'll automatically get a warm reception when you visit your constituency, especially if some residents there aren't happy with the work you're doing, as Teresa Kok learned today. Seputeh MP Teresa Kok today visited a construction site of a high-rise building in Taman Desa, Kuala Lumpur, which collapsed last week. However, she did not get the warmest reception. Speaking to reporters outside the construction site today, Teresa Kok said it would be unfair to blame her for the project, as it was approved and started before Harapan came into power in 2018. In fact, she said she has consistently opposed the overdevelopment of Taman Desa. If completed, the address will have 3 towers with 30 stories each on a narrow strip of land which was once the Naga National Berhad Reserve land. Taman Desa residents had once mounted a fierce campaign against the project because the reserve land was designated as a green lung under the Kuala Lumpur Master Plan 2020.
So to say that I run away from responsibility, I ignore the people, which is definitely wrong, because we have opposed this, and this project is under here, the number 2, under here. I can give you a copy, you can get this online also. So we have opposed, myself, Taman Desa Resident Association, have opposed the overdevelopment, excessive development in Taman Desa, not only this part but many parts of Taman Desa before.
Several disgruntled residents who are opposed to the project confronted Teresa Kok during her press conference this morning.
I can call a town hall meeting, but the problem is that group of people that pressurized me. They were the one that go on town to attack me. So I think, excuse me, let me handle the media first, then I handle you.
Former DAP Seputeh Deputy Chairperson Kong KY, who is also a resident of Tiara Faber, said residents affected by the project feel neglected by their MP.
We have been appealing to the Minister, the MP, for a town hall meeting for the last 2.5 years. We can show you evidence. We have got written evidence to substantiate our claim. It's not something we pluck it from the air. Okay? If you know, even we invited her for the press conference yesterday at our Tiara Faber, she didn't even respond to us. NGO came, the opposition member also came, but who is the lady, the Miss Chan, who protested against her, and also the Datuk Benichin also came. They were very concerned about what is happening over here.
Teresa Kok was also quizzed on a previous accident involving a construction crane at a nearby project.
Can you give us a bit of time?
Thank you. This is a press conference.
Yeah, you said something wrong just now about the crane falling onto the contractual price. It actually fell into a private compound.
I did not say this. I did not say this. It's your words. I did not say this.
Worksite accident. It's not. It's into our compound.
How do you ask people to stop talking about something by talking about the same thing you don't want people to talk about? If anyone could do it, it's our politicians. Bersatu Supreme Council member Farah Ismail has advised PKR leaders to stop talking about the power transition and grow up. He said constantly talking about the power transition would create uncertainty over who holds power. He said unless, of course, like children, they want constant reassurance from an elder statesman when he will hand over power. He said this after PKR Selayang MP William Leong claimed that Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad had not changed from his dictatorial ways and suggested the need for a Plan B for the power handover to PKR President Anwar Ibrahim. Tariq told FMT that PKR does not command a majority in Dewan Rakyat to decide who should become PM. He cited Article 43 of the Federal Constitution, which states that the Yang di-Pertuan Agong shall appoint a PM from among MPs, who in his judgment is likely to command the confidence of the majority of the House. Veteran lawyer Shafie Abdullah will be away to prepare for his son's wedding. So what will happen to Najib's 1MDB trial? Former Prime Minister Najib Abdul Razak's 2.28 billion ringgit 1MDB trial has been postponed to March 2nd. The hearing was initially scheduled to go on tomorrow and Friday. The Kuala Lumpur High Court Judge Colin Lawrence Sequeira allowed the application by the accused's lead defence counsel Muhammad Shafie Abdullah this afternoon. Shafie had applied for the postponement as his son is set to get married on February 20th and he needs to take part in the wedding preparations in Penang. His son Mohammad Farhan is also a lawyer and is part of his defense team. Najib is facing 22 charges of money laundering, 4 counts of abuse of power in relations to billions of ringgit in 1MDB funds. Pakatan Harapan once dominated the use of social media for their messaging. How times have changed. Before defeating BN in the last general election, Pakatan Harapan relied largely on social media and practically dominated the platform, but a lot has changed since then. Lim Kit Siang's political secretary, Sharitzan Johan, said after BN lost the federal government in 2018, they've used a narrative to attack the new government. And they've done this by exploiting social media to narrate that the Harapan government is dominated by Chinese. Sharitzan explained that with BN leaders embroiled in numerous corruption cases, they needed a simple yet effective message to attack the Harapan government by taking advantage of the freedom returned to the people to spread their propaganda. The lawyer conceded that Harapan has also lost the social media advantage they once had. Sharitzan stressed that Harapan must work together as a coalition to counter the narrative when it comes to social media engagement. But with the coalition partners occupied with the power transition issue, don't expect Harapan's counter-narrative anytime soon. Authorities scrambled on Monday to track down hundreds of cruise ship passengers scattered across the world after a woman from the ship tested positive for COVID-19. American passengers were taken off the Diamond Princess cruise ship on Sunday and were flown home after being quarantined for 2 weeks off Japan's Yokohama port. Of the roughly 400 Americans on the cruise, more than 40 are infected with the virus and will stay in Japan for treatment, said Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the U.S. National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. The others were evacuated to Air Force bases in the United States and will be subjected to a 14-day quarantine. 70 new coronavirus cases were confirmed on board the ship, bringing the total on the ship to 355, by far the largest cluster of cases outside China. In China's Hubei province, the number of reported new cases of coronavirus rose on Monday after 2 days of falls, as authorities imposed tough new restrictions on movement to prevent the spread of the disease, which has now killed more than 1,700 people. Chinese health officials on Sunday said 2 days of falls in the number of new confirmed cases showed their efforts to halt the spread of the virus were bearing fruit, although international experts say it is too early to say the epidemic has peaked. Of the 70,000 plus cases in mainland China, around 10,800 people have been treated and released from hospital. Coming up next, we speak to Dr. Christopher Lee, the National Advisor for Infectious Disease. What do race cars, President Trump and the Beast have in common? All that and more after this. Dr. Christopher Lee is an expert when it comes to infectious diseases. He is currently the Ministry of Health's National Advisor for Infectious Diseases. So who better to ask about the COVID-19 outbreak? He came to our office this morning and we had a little chat. This is the first part of that interview. We'll be releasing subsequent parts on Tuesday and Wednesday. You don't want to miss this. Dr. Christopher Lee, thank you so much for joining us today. I understand that you came out of retirement because of the COVID-19.
No, I didn't come out of retirement. I'm still very much retired. 3 weeks ago.
So to start off, perhaps you can tell if Malaysia should be taking similar precautions seen in Singapore to combat the spread of COVID-19. For example, the way they've stopped flights from China, as well as they conduct screenings in most places.
Based on the assessment that we have now, we are not yet at that level. My only advice is we need to plan in case situation escalates here, because to implement these things, it's not so easy. It's going to take a lot of planning and coordination within different agencies and different sectors of the civil society. You know, we have to start teaching. We do not want people to panic. Remember, balancing fear of contagion and social disruption. Do we want to be paralyzed completely? I mean, our lives would change immediately. If our lives have to change, it's an Armageddon, the kind of thing, you know, zombie land kind of thing, you know, okay lah, the world will change. But if we do not have to, let's not overdo it. And that balance is important. I think China, Wuhan is the extreme that side. Even the other cities haven't done that, isn't it? I think in Beijing and Shanghai, the big cities, there are only travel restrictions for only certain groups of people, not completely. All right, so Beijing may be relatively untouched yet. So even in China, they are doing different things. So therefore, it's the same thing in Singapore and Malaysia now. We all hope that we don't have to escalate any further. Hope things settle. But clearly, I think we need to prepare. We need to plan. What we can do is to educate civil society and individuals, families, what you can do. Having better hygiene will help us now. It will help us also for the next outbreak. I mean, I've been an ID physician since 1992. In that 30 over years, how many major new infections we have got? Out of the blue, Nipah came along. From where? No idea. Then SARS came along. Then there was, of course, Ebola was there earlier. Then you have the bird flu. Then you have H1N1. Then you have MERS-CoV. They're all brand new viruses. No, now we have this. So will there be another one? Absolutely, you can bet your life there will be another one.
Should we be publishing the travel history of those confirmed infected by the virus, so to help people identify if they've come into contact with such people?
I guess they balance between the stigma and discrimination that the public might apply on those places, and it's probably real, all right? But this is something I think that we can speak to the Ministry of Health, I mean, on the reason behind that. But you're right, people might feel uncomfortable that they don't know. Maybe they went to the same place around the same time, perhaps. I agree with you.
You know, US President Donald Trump's re-election campaign is in gear when there are actual gears involved. I'm talking about manual transmissions connected to naturally aspirated V8s. US President Donald Trump welcomed NASCAR fans at the opening of the Daytona 500 with a loop around the racetrack in his presidential limo on Sunday. Trump had landed on Air Force One near the Daytona International Speedway and was driven in his presidential limousine known as the Beast directly onto the racetrack along with the rest of his motorcade.
The Daytona 500 is a legendary display of roaring engines, soaring spirits of the American skill, speed, and power that we've been hearing about for so many years. The tens of thousands of patriots here today have come for the fast cars and the world-class motorsports. But NASCAR fans never forget that no matter who wins the race, what matters most is God, family, and country.
After meeting people at the speedway and delivering a brief remark, Trump got back into the limo with his wife for a lap around the track, with the race cars following behind. Trump has been ramping up his nationwide re-election effort after his acquittal in the US Senate impeachment trial. His campaign planned to take advantage of the president's appearance by flying an aerial banner near the speedway and running a television ad during the Fox broadcast. Shortly after starting, the race was postponed until Monday because of rainy weather. Coming up next, more headlines from today. And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm Prasad Michael. Thank you for watching.